Hello, my friends. Today I am discussing all things spoilers when it comes to All Stars 10, and you have been warned. Go check out my spoiler free preseason thoughts. I put that one up yesterday. So I'm going to chat about the format, some of the eliminations, and the controversial top two. This is your opportunity to leave now. Okay, are we good? Good. So, first up, I want to express something. I am very anti spoilers when it comes to Drag Race. I hate to be spoiled. However, there was so much talk about how dumpster fiery this season's going to be that I couldn't avoid it. So, I was like, you know what? For the first time in Drag Race history, I'm going to break my rule. I'm going to go into a season fully aware, eyes wide open. If this is about to be the worst All Stars in the US franchise, I want to be prepared. Now, of course, the spoilers might not be 100% accurate, and I may end up actually enjoying the season, but somehow I very much doubt it. Let's talk about the format first, because that is a huge issue in and of itself. All Stars 10 is being done very differently to what came before it. 18 queens are competing in a tournament. Once I learned the entire layout from start to finish, I realized how messy it was. It feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors to disguise the fact that they just want to push two certain queens to the end. I feel like they're trying to bamboozle us with brackets and mergers, and I'm not buying it. And let's be real, 18 queens is far too much. That was a bad casting decision in itself. So, for those of you that don't know, the 18 queens are split into three groups of six. Those three groups do not interact with each other at all. In group one, we have Deja Sky, Phoenix, Irene Dubois, or Irene the Alien, Olivia Lux, Bosco, and Aja. They are the first group that we will see once the season begins, and they will compete in three competitive episodes. They receive points based on whether they are the top two that week, and whoever makes the most points by the end of the three episodes moves on to the merge. The rest of the queens are eliminated. We do not see them again, at least until the end. We then move on to the next group, which consists of Georges, Lydia B. Collins, Mistress Isabel Brooks, Tina Burner, Nicole Page Brooks, and Kerry Colby. This is the same format as group one. And then we move on to the final group, which consists of Denali, Cynthia Lee Fontaine, Alyssa Hunter, Acid Betty, Dia Betty, and Ginger Minge. Same rules apply. Okay, now we're in the merge, which means that the 9 queens that survived in their groups are all competing together. At this point, it will feel like a regular season. However, they will only go on to compete in 2 competitive episodes, and then the finale is a lip sync smackdown for the crown. It's confusing, right? Like, it's going to be a hot mess. I'm so sorry. In the Lollapalooza, they bring back an eliminated contestant, and they have 8 queens that compete, knocking each other out one by one until we get a winner. So I think it's time to talk about the controversial top 2, which is why I looked into spoilers to begin with, because it was unavoidable. Now, before you say that this top 2 has since changed, it hasn't. I've looked into it and they have debunked the change. I wish it had changed, trust me. I also want to stress that I love both of these queens as individuals and drag artists. This has nothing to do with them personally. It's just that if I'm speaking my truth, I would never have cast either of them to begin with. So one of the top 2 is Georges, and we literally just saw Georges on All Stars 9. So for her to not only be in All Stars 10 but also make the top 2 feels very intentional on production's part. The fandom is already in an uproar over it, but that's not all. Because joining her in the top 2 is Ginger Minge. Ginger is competing for the 4th time at this point, and in her last All Stars season, she made it to the finale. So it's not like she really needed that extra chance. Also, a big part of why she didn't win All Stars 6 is because the fans weren't responding to her very well. So as you can imagine, Ginger and Georges making the top 2 is crazy. It feels like this season was created just for them to get to the end, and just like Global All Stars, I have to ask the question, what is the point? Don't act like any of these other queens stood a chance when you already had a plan in place from the very beginning. I do feel that it is very likely that Ginger will win, and that seems to me more like an IOU rather than she murdered the competition. However, I may change my tune. If I get to the end and can genuinely say that Georges and Ginger were just the best, I guess I'll have to eat my words. But somehow I don't think that's going to happen. I expect there to be a lot of riggery. I also want to add that when production pushes contestants like this to the end, it has a negative blowback on those queens themselves. I feel genuinely bad for Ginger and Georges because they are already receiving a lot of hate. and a lot of fans don't even know yet that they make it to the very end. Whoever wins out of the two, I'm guessing Ginger, will be told that they didn't deserve the crown and that it was never rightfully theirs to begin with. Now, I know that they agreed to this and I know they'll get money and exposure, but that doesn't take away from how much the hate is going to suck. It's all fine when the season is being filmed, but when it airs and the fandom starts to weigh in, that's when it becomes too much. And so, with the rest of the contestants, I'm really disappointed that some of them don't even make the merge. My heart hurts the most for Deja Skye, Denali, and Kerry Colby. And I'm sure someone in my comments will say, well, you're just mad because your favorites didn't make it to the end. And yes, I'm mad, but I'm mad because we didn't really need to give Georges and Ginger another chance. And maybe these queens could have made it further if they weren't on this season to begin with. Knowing that this is what we can expect, I think the best thing to do is just enjoy our favorites. Let's celebrate the runways, the drama, and the lip syncs. There are some really good things that I've learned from the spoilers. For example, Irene the Alien has a huge redemption, and Lydia Collins makes it to the end. So does Diabetti, so does Bosco, so does Aja, etc. Kerry Colby is the wild card that is brought back to the Lollapalooza SmackDown for the crown, and even though she doesn't make it, it'll be good to see her again. And apparently, the lovely Cynthia Lee Fontaine is voted into the merge by her sisters for just being a kind, lovely soul. Honestly, it feels like we haven't had a decent All-Stars since 6. This one in particular feels like a huge missed opportunity. The format is clunky, there's too many queens, the top 2 are a joke, not the artists themselves, just the riggery behind it all, and it just feels wildly unfair. The assigned groups are suspect as well. It's not like we got to see how these groups were formed. It's very clear that the way they were put together was intentional. The air is thick with riggery and we haven't even started yet. Of course, I will be tuning in and recapping. It helps to know what I'm getting into. I was completely unprepared for Global All Stars, and I kind of wish I knew what was happening in advance because that was awful. But like Global All Stars, I am going to be brutally honest along the way. If I had to pick who I would prefer to win between Ginger Minj and Georges, it might be controversial, but I'm going to say Ginger only because she has been around for such a long time and she is a legend and she has competed multiple times and done really well. So I kind of get it, but I just don't think she should even be here to begin with. That's my issue. It's the casting of Ginger, not if she wins or how far she makes it. It's why is Ginger here? That's what I want to know. And why is Georges here? Why did they think, hey, let's bring Georges back when she was literally just on? It would have been nice to have had some time to miss Georges. I like Georges. It's just a strange decision. And yes, you could make the argument that Lydia was just on, but she hasn't been on All Stars, so it's kind of different. I want queens that haven't had the opportunity yet to be on All Stars. And Lydia is a good example. She hasn't been on All Stars, so it's okay that we just saw her last week. Anyway, my friends, let me know what you think of the spoilers, how you think the season's going to go, if you're excited about it, or if you're already expecting it to be a hot mess like I am. Give me all the tea, and I'll be back very soon with a fun Dragula collaboration video.